Hello, and welcome to Place the Planets for Science Rendezvous. My name is Dave Kirsch, and I teach astronomy at Ryerson University. And what I have for you today is a brief activity that will help you get a better sense of the scale of the solar system. The solar system is a wonderful place full of amazingly diverse and interesting objects, but a lot of people don't have a great sense for how those things compare. And it's because the pictures that we often use simply can't give us a great sense of that. So what I want you to do is print off some pictures of your own, and we're going to see how they really compare in the true scale of the solar system. We're going to see if you can place the planets. So what I've done for you is give you a little instruction sheet on how to do this that includes some pictures of the planets that you can print out for yourself. Color would be nice because they're pretty, but whatever works. So here we have, for example, Jupiter and Saturn. This one you actually have to, this is pretty wide with the rings, so you actually have to print out two and then glue them together. But here we have the two biggest planets in the solar system, and you can see, once you printed them out, how they compare. All right, so here we've got Jupiter, the king of the planets, and Saturn. And then we've also got our ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, and yes, it's pronounced Uranus. And then we've got our smaller worlds, terrestrial worlds, the rocky worlds, that you can actually land on and stand on. All right, and there's four of those. And here we're only talking about the planets. So Pluto, the dwarf, and the other dwarf planets are not included here. They would be a little bit too difficult to make this really work, although I suppose you can try if you want. Anyway, so here we've got our rocky worlds, and they're much smaller, right? So Mercury here, I don't even know if you can see that, is a pretty tiny dot. So I've given you like the name, an arrow, and a little dot to indicate the actual planet. But yeah, you really have to keep some white on that because otherwise it's pretty hard to even see it. You'll lose Mercury right away if you just print it out, cut it out. Earth here is, what is this, about the size of a dime. But it gives you a nice sense of scale. When you see a picture of the solar system, if you Google one, then I bet you a lot of them will have Jupiter and Earth similar sized because we're from Earth. We're concerned with Earth. We want to see a nice picture of Earth. But realistically, if you have a nice picture of Jupiter, your picture of Earth is going to be pretty small. You can fit 10 of your little Earth cutouts, give or take, across the face of Jupiter. It's pretty big. So right away we see the sizes of the planets in our solar system and how they compare. But that's not the whole point of the activity. Our activity today is to see if we can place the planets. So the first question is, do you know the order of the planets? And if there's families watching this, the kids might be a little bit more recently versed in this than the adults. But, well, let's see. What I want you to do for this activity is you've got your planets printed out and you're all set. Take a piece of tape, maybe, and well, it's got to be about 150 centimeters, 152.4 centimeters exactly, I think, if you really want to be accurate. And lay it out on the floor. That's probably the easiest way to do that, because that's actually a pretty long stretch of tape. And here I've got mine all set up, although I'm using a piece of Velcro, okay, because I've done this one in public before, so Velcro is a little bit more reusable. But you can do whatever you want. Or you can do a piece of string, whatever works for you. Lay it out on the floor. One side is going to be the sun, and you can see my little sun all the way over there. Now, if the sun were to be properly sized for this, the sun would have to be about 10 Jupiters wide. 10 Jupiters wide means what? Roughly the width of my couch here. So that's something I don't really need you to print out and cut out. All right? Let's just say the sun is big. So we're going to put the sun at one end of your string or tape, and at the other end, this will be the location of the outermost planet right here. Okay? The outermost planet will go there. So the first challenge is, do you know the order? What planet goes first? And the next challenge is, where do the planets go from the very inside of the solar system at the sun all the way to the outside? How do these things fit? So if you want to try this on your own, I would suggest pausing the video now, printing out these pictures, laying out your string or tape, and laying out your pictures and seeing how you do. All right, so this is a good place to pause and do it on your own, because otherwise I'm pretty much about to show you the answers. So let's check it out. So we begin with the rocky planets, and all the rocky planets are on the inside. So we're going to come right over here to the sun, and the innermost planet is Mercury, the smallest planet. And I've had a lot of people over the years guess at some very interesting spacings. A lot of people guess that the planets are roughly equally spaced. Turns out they're not quite. But let's check it out. So where would you say Mercury should go? If this is the sun, and the outermost planet is all the way out there, where should Mercury go? Let's say, I don't know, about here, maybe? Okay, so I've placed Mercury. The next planet out is Venus. Where should Venus go? Not too far. We've got 4 planets here. They're probably going to take the inside half of the solar system, so let's say Venus can go roughly here. All right? Then we've got the third rock from the sun, and that's us, Earth. Sure, why not? Mars. I seem to have a lot of space left, but that's okay because the outer planets are pretty big. So let's see. Jupiter is next, the king of the planets, and I'm going to put Jupiter, I don't know, roughly in the middle. Saturn, the jewel of the solar system, with the famous rings. There's not a lot of space left, is there? Uranus and Neptune. And Neptune is the outermost planet, so I'm just going to put that right on the outermost point. And then Uranus. See that? We'll go right here in between. How about that? How does that look for the spacing of the solar system? It's reasonable. Let's check it out. So that's the place the planets that I've done. Let's see how I've done. And you don't quite have an answer sheet, but I have given you the list of the actual locations of where they should go. So you're just going to have to measure it out with a tape measure. But I've cheated, and mine comes complete with the answers. And oh boy, I thought I was doing well, but I was way off. So let's check it out. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are all compacted right next to the sun. Where I placed Mercury, which may have seemed reasonable enough, all 4 of the innermost planets are actually within that distance. And they're tight together. There's a reason why I chose the sizes I did, and it's because for the size of this, I wanted to make these planets as big as I could, but I couldn't make them too big or else the pictures would overlap. So Mercury, Venus, and Earth are pretty much touching. You can probably guess that the pictures that I've made are a little bit too big here. So these are actually really close together and really close to the sun, and I think that's the first surprise. And then in a roughly evenly spaced solar system, you can see that the giants are not accurate. So here we have Jupiter, and it is surprisingly close, right? It is all the way over here compared to the sun. So my guess that seemed maybe reasonable that it would be roughly in the middle was totally wrong. Jupiter is super close in. Earth's distance from the sun is often called it is called 1 astronomical unit. And Jupiter is at about 5.2 astronomical units. So it's about 5 times farther from the sun than we are. And then Saturn is at about 9 astronomical units. So about double Jupiter's distance from the sun. But given the size of the worlds that I'm using, they sure look right next to each other. So hold on. That we've got 6 of our 8 planets, all on the inside half. What's on the other side? So let's come to the other side now and check it out. And in the outside half of the solar system, we have almost nothing. The outer solar system is very, very empty. So here we see Uranus, and here we see Neptune all the way at the end of the system, all right, the outermost planet. I've never really seen anyone guess that accurately on their first try. The outside of the solar system is remarkably barren and empty, and the inside of the solar system is remarkably busy. But that is the scale of our solar system. Now, if you use the printed out activity that I've given you, there are a couple other things to note here. For starters, you can lay this out on your own and see how you do, or see how each other do, and see who comes closest to the truth. But there are some other things to note. For starters, and I mentioned this already, my cutouts are these the right size for the width of solar system that I've got? Nowhere close. You can probably guess that, again, by the fact that Venus and Earth, the cutouts are pretty much touching. So these cutouts are too big, substantially too big, ridiculously too big. When I shrunk the sizes of the planets down, I shrunk them by, let me check my notes, 850 million, whereas I shrunk the distance of the solar system. The distances are shrunk down by 3 trillion. The sizes I shrunk down a lot to make them fit onto this paper and fit next to each other, but I didn't shrink them down enough. The sizes are too big by 3,500. I would have to shrink these pictures by 3,500 times more in order to make them the right size compared to the distance, which means that even the biggest planet, Jupiter, would be invisible, a pixel in this video, way too small to see compared to the overall distance. The solar system really is incredibly empty. So if you want to do this on your own, another option is to take your 8 cutouts of your planets that you've got, and you can make 8 pieces of string. You can tie them all together at the sun, or pin them down at the sun, and then you can have 8 pieces of string that can all rotate independently. Because one of the problems with this is it gives you the wrong idea that all these things are all in a line, and they're never in a line. They all orbit the sun at their own speeds, in their own times. And so if you have them all rotating independently on their own pieces of string, then you can really sort of start to have them swinging about the sun, and you can really get more of a sense for the true spread of the solar system. Because right now I've got, Neptune over here and Uranus over there, but really Neptune could be over here and Uranus could be on the other side of the sun entirely. You can almost double the width that I've got here as things are rotating around. So that's an option, and my sheets give you a little bit more instructions on that. The scale of the solar system is truly surprising. So I hope you'll give this activity a try. And there's many other things that you could do if you're interested in pursuing it. So for example, I've got a little Earth over here. One other thing I like to think about is the size of the Earth compared to the Moon. And this is a little bit more personal, a little bit more known, because we all see the Moon all the time. But most people don't have a great sense for how these things actually compare. So for example, I've got a few objects here. Here's my Earth. If this is the size of the Earth, how big should the Moon be? So let's just do this quick as a send-off. How big should the Moon be? I've got a little bead here that you can barely see. I've got a little styrofoam ball. These are dollar store things. And I've got a smaller ball. Which, well, smaller than this anyway. So which do you think would the Moon be? And the answer is this little styrofoam ball. About a quarter the width of the Earth. So you can easily head down to the dollar store and pick out a ball, and a ball that's about a quarter the size. The next question is, how far apart are they? And let's call this the last question of our activity. How far apart are they? When I allow people to guess, a lot of people guess, well, something like this. Let me get this the right side up. All right, so a lot of people guess really, really close. The answer is, again, surprisingly far. Space is big and very, very empty. And even between the Earth and the Moon, there's a lot of space. So in order to do this, I'm actually going to have a little bit of trouble, because how wide is my view here? I'm going to take a piece of string that I've already cut out. You want to know the answer right in advance, I'll tell you that you can fit 30 Earths between the Earth and the Moon. 30 Earths. What does that look like? Let's take a look. I pre-cut this string. Take whatever the width of your ball is, if you want to do this for yourself, and then measure a string 30 times longer than that. And let me put this all the way over here, and let's see. People guess that the Moon is that close, right? Nope. 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 I don't think I can fit it in camera, all right? Can you see it? My string is still not tight. Roughly there, all right? Roughly there. So there's my ball all the way over here. And yeah, I can't quite easily get it in the picture, can I? there's a lot of space in space, even between the Earth and the Moon. All right, that demo works a lot better in person, of course. So I hope you'll try that. I hope you'll try to place the planets on your own, and I hope you enjoy Science Rendezvous. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Dave Kirsch, and it's been a pleasure having you visit Place the Planets.